Hello, everyone. Happy to be the last presenter. I'm glad there's still an audience. Probably a lot of what you're going to hear me talk about today, hopefully, is in sync with what Steve McKee talked about this morning. And feel free to ask questions of me or of the panel as we get finished. The way we're going to do this, I'm going to do a short intro, and then Sydney's going to do a case study, and then we're going to do some Q&A.
On September 22nd, 2006, a mysterious site called thepurification.org appeared. An unknown symbol and a timer counting down appeared to be all the site contained. However, 8 hidden mini-timers were quickly found. The mystery of the purification had begun. Seeded through internet message boards, MySpace emails, and guerrilla items such as stickers, Starbucks napkins, Post-it notes placed inside targeted magazines, and customized Black Diamond playing cards that were distributed in key cities across the country. Thepurification.org quickly gained momentum amongst the internet community, and multiple online forums were created to discuss and unravel the mystery, eventually leading to thepurification.org having its own listing on wikipedia.com. In mid-October, a letter to the editor asking about the mysterious symbol appeared in Free Skier magazine, along with a hand-drawn sketch. Sparked by this letter, and thanks to a planted blogger, strings began on multiple online ski forums about the symbol and the purification website. In late October, the first mini-timer on thepurification.org ended, revealing the first clue. At the same time, a riddle was placed in the source code of the site. Those that found and deciphered its meaning were led to a sister site, where they were presented with an alternate reality game, or ARG. The game led participants through 3 levels of clues, explaining the philosophy behind the purification symbol along the way. The final clue was solved only hours before the purification timed out. In the first week of November, a street prophet appeared in a downtown area, preaching about the demise and commercialization of skiing.
Record moguls instead of snow moguls! There's now a Colorado cream run instead of a milk run, and is that right?
Shortly after, a video of the prophet found its way onto YouTube, and a link to the video was placed on skier blogs and ski club websites. In the final weeks, the last 4 mini-timers revealed the names of 4 small U.S. cities. Once plotted on a map, these cities formed an almost perfect diamond. In the center of this diamond was a small town in northern New Mexico known as Taos. On November 14th, at 11 p.m. Eastern, the purification timer reached 0. After weeks of speculation and hundreds of thousands of hits, the screen faded to black, and the meaning behind the purification was finally revealed. After the reveal, viewers were immediately redirected to Taos Ski Valley's new website, which launched in unison with the end of the purification. Taos is a small, family-owned resort with old-school values. It's one of only a handful of ski-only mountains in the world, which has refused to sell out and become just another theme park on powder. The morning after the reveal, thousands of Taos loyalists received a package in the mail that explained the purification and the loyalists' role in helping Taos carry out their mission of purifying the sport. The mystery of the purification was now solved. The purification itself is just beginning.
So that, I'm sure you're wondering what the heck that is. That is an example of an integrated campaign that our agency put together in 2006, before social media was rampant and mobile and all the other things we heard about this weekend, or this week. And what I really wanted to explain is, we did this because we had to. This is a small client with a really limited budget, and they couldn't afford huge national TV buys or magazine buys for that matter. And so in our culture at our agency, it's really come about that we have to be integrated because our campaigns have to be, the whole of our campaigns have to be greater than the sum of their parts, just because we're forced to work with small clients and smaller budgets. So as Steve alluded to today, we really about a year ago, 2 years ago, reorganized our agency and created a department called Integration Architecture, which is the department that I lead, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that today. Up here, there's a list of a few recent assignments that we've gotten from clients, and really the moral of the story is that people come to us with all different kinds of problems, and Steve talked about some of these today. And all of them are solved by creating integrated marketing plans, and not just a campaign that's going to run for a month or a year or 2 years. We really develop long-term strategic plans for them, and I'll go through step by step how we do that. And what we really believe is the basis for a strong integrated campaign. Am I pointing this over here? So the very first thing that we really establish with our clients is what is the objective that all of our marketing efforts are going to serve. And it's not just a marketing objective, it's really a business objective. Is it sales? Is it awareness? Is the company looking to go IPO? And we make sure that we've established one objective that everybody agrees to, and that everything we develop from that point forward will meet that objective. We also preach that we should narrowly define our target. We can't be everything to everybody, and when you are everything to everybody, you're pretty much nothing. So we really practice, you've got to narrow in as much as you can on who your target is and figure out what their needs are, what their interests are, what their lifestyle's like. And the narrower that you define them, the more bold you can be with them, and the more direct you can be with them. Also, to really maintain the focus of your brand identity, somebody talked about yesterday being pistachio and not vanilla. We preach that all the time. You've really got to be different, and you've got to be unique, and you've got to stick with that message. Brands that are successful really, really do this well. Coke, for example, everything they do centers around happiness. Everything Apple does centers around innovation. Nike, it's all about motivation, and they've been preaching this for hundreds of years in some cases. Coke's been doing it for 100 years. So we really want our clients to boil down what their brand is to one word most of the time. And then last is demonstrating consistency. And consistency is something that happens over time, but also across all of your tactics. Everything has to work together. It can't have one thing going on over here and something else going on over here. So these 4 tenets, I guess you could call them, really tie into the, if you guys were here for Steve's presentation this morning, tie into those 4 internal dynamics. And these are the answers that we help our clients come to in order to solve some of their growth problems or stuck problems. And we really believe that this has to be done in this order. If someone comes to us and say, we need a new website, we say, well, hold on, you got to step back, and we got to go all the way to the top and kind of figure out what are your business objectives, who's your target, what's your brand identity, and then we can start laying out the tactics. So how do we implement an integrated marketing plan? And this is really where the integration architecture department comes in. And we think there are several key things to keep in mind as you're doing this. And one of the very first things we do is consider all stages of the customer life cycle. And we heard that today. Actually, David just talked about it. You've got to think about how you're reaching them during the attraction stage, during the conversion, during retention, and also during engagement to get them to continue coming back to you, talk to their friends about you. And make sure that you're using the appropriate channels. When we narrowly define that target, what are they doing? Are they even using their mobile phones? Are they online? Are they not? We really need to figure out what they're doing, and we need to pick the right channels for them. Also, what are the connections in the pathways? It's very similar to the continuum idea that customers are coming in and leaving your marketing plan, so to speak, in different areas. And you want to make sure that each one of those journeys is really clearly defined. It's important to keep a centralized goal and keep everything marching in the same direction, and also a similar theme, really keeping your brand identity alive in everything that you do. And make sure you pick suitable tactical executions. You know, the creative team might come up with an amazing idea, but it's just not going to work for the target, or it's not going to work for the budget. So you need to make sure you pick the right things. Setting benchmarks and goals are really, really important, and measuring those and checking in to make sure you're meeting those goals. And always optimizing and always making adjustments along the way. And this is not an easy process. It requires a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance, both on the agency side and on the client side. Steve talked about it today. You know, you get the need to create something new just because you're bored, but the customers aren't bored. They don't know. They don't live it every day like you do. So we really preach patience and perseverance with our clients. So I'm going to turn it over to Sydney, and she's going to give a quick case study.
Just give you a brief history here. In 1965, at the age of 17, Fred DeLuca borrowed $1,000 from a family friend. And the first submarine sandwich shop was made in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It was called Pete's Super Submarines. And if we fast forward to 2011, 46 years later, beyond anybody's wildest dreams, this submarine sandwich restaurant now has more locations in the world than any other restaurant. Did everybody know that? Do we know that Subway surpassed McDonald's last year? Kind of a big thing, but we keep it on the down low. So from that $1,000 investment, Subway is, of course, now a multi-billion-dollar company. We have 34,500 stores in 97 countries throughout the world. And each year, we get all kinds of awards and all kinds of accolades. And just this year alone, since January, we received the #1 spot in Entrepreneur Magazine, the #1 in the Harris Poll and Zagat, feeling that we're the healthiest choice. The customers like us the most. And these are all good things. So with all those #1s, where are we going in the future? And you might notice these pictures maybe don't look like the Subways that you're used to seeing. We have a more spacious dining room with some fireplaces and leather chairs. We even have a Subway cafe. So in the 97 countries, it's found in varying stages of development. Some countries like Vietnam or Martinique have 1 store, but of course the United States has 24,000 stores. And I want to share with you some of the type of marketing that we've done to get to this place. And first of all, understand that I'm not selling sandwiches. My franchise sales development does not sell the sandwiches. The consumer thing is operated completely under another situation with an advertising agency, lots of advertising agencies. But the idea is to sell a franchise to a person who wants to own their own business. And a key thing in that is the development agent. This development agent usually has already owned a couple of stores, realizes what a great potential this could be in a certain area, and comes into the home office and becomes a development agent, signs a contract, and he's an independent contractor. So with that target in mind for the franchise development throughout the world, focus on what succeeded to make us that #1 consistently. To begin with, the franchise sales brochure, it's produced in several languages, and we have this in a hard copy. We also have it on the website. And the target for the brochure, again, is the franchisee. We advertise in global trade journals, specializing in what we call non-traditional locations, airports, colleges, universities, convenience stores. And they all have individual brochures directly targeted to that. And this is an interesting thing that I threw in to show you some really non-traditional locations. We have one in a Baptist church in the state of New York. We have one on a cruise ship in Germany. And the one in the upper right, we're very proud of it because it's the World Trade Center that's being constructed now in New York. This is a movable subway restaurant that goes all the way up to whatever floor the construction workers need to get their lunch, so they don't have to come all the way down to the sidewalk, spend time finding lunch, and then go all the way back up. So we're real happy with that non-traditional location. So in the 4 years that I've been with Subway, I realized the importance is completely maintaining our focus and keeping that momentum going of the last 46 years. And it's all at global levels to keep bringing in those leads for franchisees. The franchise sales tells the basic story, why it's a good thing to own a Subway restaurant. It's a healthy, good restaurant. People like it. We're number one in so many things. It's a great support system, and it's a relatively low cost. So we do this with what we call our integrated marketing, which is a little different from what you've heard so far. We do, obviously, our website. We do advertising. We do email. We have trade shows for those non-traditional spots, and direct mail in some cases, and of course the collateral. So what's the key to all this success? Do we hire the PR agencies? Do we hire the ad agencies? Do we keep up with the latest technology? Do we jump on, oh, this is social media, we got to jump on that bandwagon? Do we assume that all these new countries are unique and we should maybe alter the way we're doing things for them? And to all of these questions, the answer is no, we don't. So what has saying no done for us? In 2010, we brought in 160,000 leads. And I think that represents not the people who buy the sandwiches, but the people who want to buy a franchise. So that was the highest we had ever received in a year. And I want to mention, too, at this point, with the new countries, it's a story that we hear a lot, and they say, you know, it's all different here in our country. It's really not like the United States. You don't understand. This submarine sandwich thing is not going to go over. We have to change it a little bit. And of course, we say, oh, no, you can't change it. This is what you have to go by. We have an operations manual, big, thick book, detail by detail for each of the franchisees. Follow everything, a possible scenario that might come up. This will help you. This will make you successful. And the development part of things is pretty much the same way. So a recent challenge that we had, a couple of the DAs, or a few of the DAs, were showing a certain spark. They understood things, but they weren't developing quite as fast as they wanted to, or we wanted them to. We figured out what do they need to help them. So we came up with a thing called the Circle of Rising Stars. It was a 6-month program, and we took DAs from Turkey, France, China, Latin America, and Egypt, very diverse, and figured out a way to help them to develop. So here are the specifics of that challenge. Here's how we figured out how to help them. And this is a very simple program, back to the basics kind of thing. So the first phase was to get them to do some in-store advertising, because we found that our best customer for a franchise is the customer for the sandwich. So we put brochures into the stores, and they were from different languages. We did some Chinese and some for Latin America. And interesting thing about the little brochure, sometimes a franchisee would not want to advertise for other franchisees because that would be competition. So we said, okay, let's think about this. You might want somebody to work in your store, so let's advertise for people to work in your store, also for franchisees, and also for landlords that have an area that they'd like to rent. So it's a 3-target. And then the last thing that we figured out for in-store was a very simple cash register poster that went on the front of the cash register with a pad of paper that were little tear-off business cards. Such a simple idea. Literally, we made these by hand for them because maybe we only had to make 25. Sent them out, and they were a complete success because people would tear off the card, come back, call the development agent, and become, voila, a lead. The emphasis, as I said, was on the simplicity of it all. So after that was done, phase 2 went into effect, was to get a hold of them and see how they were managing their leads, give them some pointers on how to follow through, do some role playing with them, and offer specific help and be concerned and sort of hold their hand through this, because a lot of these people weren't used to giving a seminar or doing certain things, and we would just help them, and a lot of peer support as well. So after that was done, we wanted to make sure to follow through with the paperwork and just to see exactly how this thing worked for them. So the answer is, how did we do in the 6-month program? After 6 months, the leads from all of the development agents increased 820%. They went from 131 to 1,074 leads, and they increased their applications by 61%, and last but not least, 35% in 6 months for sales. So we were happy with that. And just reflecting on the past, we look into the future. There we are, staring off into space. What will we do? What will we do? How can we be better than this? And again, we do know that we need to integrate. We need to continue to grow, again, beyond the wildest dreams of Fred when he was 17. How would he know this would happen now? And the main thing is pay attention to enforcing the brand equity and the experience. Thank you.
Okay. All right. My first question, and I think we have time for each one of you guys to answer this. What is your definition of integrated marketing? Start with you. Do you want, Chris?
Yeah, I'll start. For me, the definition of integrated marketing really goes beyond campaigns. It's what you talked about with Taos. It goes beyond the delivery of that one campaign and consistent messaging, creative brand building around that one campaign, and really extends into what the overall customer experience is. It really is, how does the customer ultimately feel about us? How are they engaging with us? And really, to me, it needs to be thought of more than how are we reaching out to the customer, but how is the customer reaching us? What are all the various touch points? And then looking at those touch points and making sure that we are delivering consistency. You know, in my business, a lot of what we do is we reach out and then we bring them in. A lot of our brand delivery and the integrated marketing piece is delivered through our people, right? Our people have to deliver on our core purpose every day. So when we talk about integrated marketing, it goes beyond just our campaign, but ultimately how we're contacting and communicating with those customers in the store and then following up with them over time from a long-term vision perspective.
I'd agree with what Chris said, and to build on that, I think we fall into the trap a lot of times of thinking, well, where are people coming to us? But by the same token, I like to try to think of where do people not expect to see us? And provided that those places actually match up with the core values of whatever your business or organization is, then that's another opportunity as well to try to reach out. As an example, one of the things that we have done in the past for us in the scouting world, the big time of the year is every fall when school starts, and we're trying to recruit new members, new adult volunteer leaders, etc. Usually that's just done through school campuses. What we started doing a few years ago and will change up here this year is to find a retail partner out there to do, in a way, it's kind of a cause marketing effort, but nevertheless it's getting materials in the locations there where people wouldn't necessarily expect to hear about something for their family, something for their kids that's going on. And that's been pretty successful, if for no other reason than it is increased the amount of certainly awareness of our program and the fact that, yes, in fact, we are still alive after now more than 100 years. But at the same token, it's just it's a great way to help reinforce the fact that we can be a part of somebody's, a potential customer's total life. We don't exist just in one little pocket over there. So you try to take that holistic approach in your marketing efforts, and also trying to position your organization, your business, as something that can fit into people's lives no matter where they are.
I think with integrated marketing for us, with the 97 countries, I think in terms of the ways of marketing for a country that, say, for example, Vietnam, that has the one store, how do we get the people to understand what a submarine sandwich is, number one? How do we market that versus a country like Brazil, which is going gangbusters, or Sweden, who absolutely adores the concept of Subway. So you have those varying levels of, and I learn things all the time there, only 4 years there. Most people have been there for 20 years and above. But I learned, for example, in a brand new country, they do what's called street fighting, which they consider, not literally, but for marketing that way, you're just literally going up to people, handing them a card and saying, we have this submarine sandwich store, stop in, all the way from that to large marketing campaigns on television and that type of thing, varying levels of development. So that's the biggest integration that I can think of.
All right. What do you find most challenging about integrated marketing?
Well, I think I should give everybody great hope here, because I'll tell you, at Golfsmith, we're not great at integrated marketing and really understanding as well as we should our customer segments. For us right now, we're great at tying creative consistently across all the channels, whether it's social media, whether it's our online and email, whether it's our catalogs, whether it's our retail direct mailers. But we have to get more specific and more customer-centric when we're talking to customers, because I don't want to send you a mailer that's full of irons if you just bought an iron set, and understand where you are in that purchase cycle, and then tag you as hey, that's an iron buyer. Let's send him or her wedges, irons. Let's understand where they are in their golf life cycle and truly build campaigns that help them fulfill that next need and that next solution. Right, and then have that longer-term vision about, okay, what's next with that specific segment or that specific person within our database. So for us, it's a big data challenge. We've got to get better with our systems, and then more importantly, having the solution and the conversation and the relevance with the customer beyond that.
I'll echo that. I mean, I would guess that probably if you ask everybody in the room, nobody is happy with their data that they have of either current customers or potential ones. From our perspective, the biggest challenge that I deal with day in and day out is more so while both of these fine folks here represent more of the top side of an organization that's working down. I'm part of the down that has to work with the up. And in our cases, the National Boy Scouts of America didn't have a marketing communications department that had everybody underneath the same roof 5 years ago. So consider to the point now where that does exist, and there are different tools and some of these concepts that maybe are not brand new to a lot of people, but are for our organization, trying to work and come up with plans, campaigns, models that then wind up either being a complete waste of time and money 2 years later when finally the national organization delivers on what it is that they said they were working on. The big challenge to me is putting the pieces together, and because you can do anything, the pressure is that you feel like you've got to do everything. And I think the more that you take a breath and step back and do exactly like Subway has done, I mean, yes, there are plenty of things they could do, but what fits with their business? What is the most intelligent use of their manpower, their funds, their time? It's that puzzle that you have to work out that I think is the biggest challenge.
One of the big challenges that I found is the non-traditional targets. Previously to me being there, a lot of advertising was not even really done there. It was just up to the development agent to go knock on a hospital door or to go knock on a college and door and say, let's get a Subway in here. So I had to figure out, okay, where are the venues to start putting in advertisements? And for example, for hospitals, who's going to be the decision maker there? And in some cases, I sort of just made a brand new path that had never been made. And I might find this very, very slick magazine that is targeting CEOs of hospitals who are talking about all kinds of medical things. And I decided, let's put an ad about increase your bottom line with Subway in this particular magazine. And of course, being unique and the only one can either completely fail, or lo and behold, they start calling us up and say, great idea, we want that. So that was a challenge, just to come up and figure out where to put it, and it still is, because all those different non-traditional venues are very wide and varied.
So assuming that you had a stellar integrated marketing campaign, what do you think would be the benefits of that, or the rewards that you would get out of it?
I would say that we would be able to better fulfill and provide solutions for our core customers on a more consistent basis, and really understand what they need from us better. You know what I mean? That's what we're working at from when we're diving into our data, is really understanding, hey, what's your next logical purchase? What's the thing that you need help with most? Is it content? It's not always just product. It's about building that relationship. So for us, the reward is taking that 20% that make up the 80%, because we all have those customers, right? And rather than trying to be everything to everybody, really serving and providing solutions for that core group of customers really, really well, and building that relationship so they are the brand advocates out there on the social media side of things. You're delivering really great, relevant content, and they keep coming back more and more, because we're in a market share game. The golf industry is not growing, so it's all about how much more of that pie can we grab. And if we build those really, really good bonds with our customers and deliver great solutions, we hope we'll get more of their dollars. So
it's really the chance that you have to deliver on whatever it is that you're selling, especially from a core organizational value standpoint. If you sell yourself as being a great benefit to families, a great benefit to consumers, if you're able to walk the walk through everything that you do throughout all of the different channels, all the executions, that makes it that much easier. Kind of like what you heard earlier with the example of Pella Windows. Once someone goes through and they've had the experience as positive, you turn around, it's that much easier then on the backside and going forward. And not to mention then that you begin to build the different brand advocacy and the recommendations that come through there, stuff that you don't have to do, that just naturally happens. That's not terribly tactical, but it is, I think, a good lesson to remember, is that if you do deliver throughout everything that you do, even if it doesn't result in a direct sale or a lead, it is that much more reinforcement of what you're trying to get across, what type of values you're trying to espouse to the greater public, and that winds up having a significantly long tail.
I think the rewards are, for franchise sales. Obviously, the more franchise sales that we make in these particular non-trad in the United States and also globally, and it's always, for me, the reward is to have someone call up, if I've helped them with, put this in your store, try this thing, and they actually email or call me to say that what a tremendous success it is. So even though it's a very basic thing that we're doing, and it might be something totally different from them, and that's the big reward for me.
And I'm tempted to open this question up to the audience after these guys answer it, this next one, just because all of these guys are clients. I'd love some agency perspective. Who should manage or lead the integrated marketing efforts, the client or the agency?
I'm going to say the client, but to me, there's a big data piece to it. I mean, if you have an outside agency like a Hard Hanks or an Experian or somebody that's really into the data and they understand the data better than you do, then by all means, I think there's always the partnership piece to it, but they should take the lead, because I think there's a lot of insights into how you go about really communicating well and building that relationship with the customer through the data. So, but that, from my perspective, we own a lot of the data, we understand a lot of it, so I'm going to say the client.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'd be awfully afraid if I were an agency and a client did not want to be actively involved in that. And to hearken that point too, for us, obviously, a lot of the personal information that we have of current members, obviously there's a huge safety concern for us and privacy concern when you're dealing with kids. So yeah, I would definitely say you need to have, if not completely in charge, then the client needs to be really, really involved.
Everyone would expect me to say definitely the client, but I will say that with the 97 countries, we at the headquarters, I certainly do not know what's going on in Poland, and I certainly can't help them out that much in Martinique or Vietnam or Germany. But some of these countries have requested we had this agency come in, and this is what they're presenting to us. What do you think? So I'm seeing this more and more as we get bigger and bigger, and it's not totally off the the books. We certainly can use agency help, especially in areas that we're not that familiar with.
Does anyone want to answer the question? I'm just curious what other people think. In terms of the big picture, integrated marketing and maintaining that brand image over everything, what are your thoughts? Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Great point. I mean, you don't want to give advice and then have the client not listen to your advice and go, hey, what do you know, the results aren't what they thought they were going to get, right? Well, you didn't listen to us.
No, I mean, to me, it's a matter of just staying in constant communication and being on the same page. But you know, if you're charging us to do this,
Yep.
I probably would say the client should own the data. Belong to the client, no doubt about it. But in terms of agility, today agility is what is required in order to execute these integrated campaigns and all those things. And if you rely on the client to manage all of the stuff, and the data and IT being involved and all those things, I think I'm afraid the answer is going to slow you down sometimes.
All right. Next question. What brand, national, international, local, whatever brand you can think of, do you think is leading or doing a really good job of integrated marketing?
This is me. I don't think anybody's doing it great. You know, that's in all the conferences I've gone to. I don't think anybody does it great long term. I think there's some great campaigns, but I don't think anybody that I've seen does it really, really well. One of my more recent experiences with Ford, we bought a new car. They've done a great job of utilizing a lot of different media to contact me, but there's still some missing points in customer feedback and insights that I could provide to them that they haven't sought out. And then again, the delivery piece for me is always the service at the customer contact with their service people. We had a crappy service experience. So for me, there's still some things that everybody can work on. I think we'd all could say we could get better, but there are great brands doing great things like Nike and stuff, but I don't think anybody, I think we could all get better.
Yep.
Well, Nike was going to be my answer. No, that's all right. I'll stick with it. I don't have to change it. But
because my answer is
I do think I would tend to agree that not many people. I mean, even Nike, that has more money than God, is necessarily that great on the after side. But is a lot of what they do, I admire as far as the Nike Plus running. I mean, that's a great brand reinforcement. You mentioned earlier about the motivation. I mean, you cannot help but, to me, a lot of their communication, no matter what the channel is, you get that message across. But it would be, I would be afraid to think about how much more powerful they could be if, in fact, they got even that much better about the backside. But if they did, look out.
I don't know. I don't have a specific, company in mind for who's doing the best thing. I know that it's changing so fast, and we're always talking about how fast things change. And it's changing so fast for Subway, for example, who really is on a different level of not jumping into things right off the bat. I do like the idea of let's do a test and see what happens, because I know things are going to change. So, for example, Czech Republic has just started out doing some Facebook kind of thing and thinks that they got a tremendous response on that. And then I said, okay, that's great. You had 4,000 hits, but are those really quality? And that needs to be looked at.
I'm going to answer this question, even though I'm the questioner. I think Apple does an amazing job in terms of integration, down to the product design level, the package design level, the Apple stores, the product, everything they do seems to be amazing to me. And I think that part of the reason that they're so successful is that it's just so deep-rooted in their brand. this whole innovation side of things for them is just in every single one of their employees, and it's just found in everything that they do. And I also have an example for you guys to Google later, just for a campaign that I think was a very well integrated campaign. And it was the Haagen-Dazs Honeybee campaign. I don't know if any of you have seen it or not, but they won the integrated award at Cannes Advertising Festival a couple years ago. But it's worth Googling. They did an amazing job with that at all different levels, from national advertising down to grassroots marketing efforts. And this question, I'm not sure we're going to get. It might be tough to answer, but it's the last question. Is there an agency out there that you think is really leading the charge in developing integrated campaigns? And I don't know if you guys will know this or not, but no.
Wouldn't you like to answer that?
No.
I'm sure she'd like
No,
to answer that as well.
I want to hear your answer to that, actually.
Oh my God, I put myself on the spot. Yeah, exactly. Boy, can we shut down the video and not stream this? You know, I think we're at a huge pivot point in marketing overall, which I think was a bit of my talk yesterday, and I think that not everyone has got all of the answers all of the time, and things are so. I'd like to say beyond the tools and services that agencies provide, I think half the magic is the chemistry that happens between the client teams. And quite frankly, it all comes down to great people working with great people, and you'll make magic out of that. So I would be absolutely arrogant, and I am, to say DDB is it. It's not, because we have our own stumbles and falls, and I think it just comes down to working things out. And I think, Sydney, you were saying that too. It's experimentation, and a lot of furious plagiarism is going on right now too. We're all copying each other. Well, that worked over there. Let's try it over here. So I think in the next 2-3 years are going to be really telling in terms of our industry overall.
That was my last formal question. Does anybody else have questions, thoughts they want to share? I would say at our shop, we really like to monitor big brands and see what they're doing. I mean, we use examples like Coke and Apple and Nike and Starbucks and those in a lot of the presentations we make, just to keep an eye on what they're doing. So anytime we see somebody like that that's been really consistent over many, many years change things up, it catches our eye. But I think those are the ones that we like to watch just because they have been doing things well for a really long, sustained period of time.
I'd like to be able to figure out something that's location-based, and I think from the point of view for us of, I don't have a good example. I don't think anybody really does at this point, but trying to, when it comes to specific example, for us in the fall and recruiting kids, families to join the program, there's such a premium nowadays on hyperlocal information, and you know, we struggle as it is just with a 15-county area, to say nothing of trying to subdivide it all the way down to the points of individual elementary school attendance zones. There is some work that's going on, and there's currently a web application that the National Boy Scouts has that is trying to, they've begun to address that, but there's now been, they're working on a mobile adaptation of that. I think we get to that point, then that could make a difference, because people just obviously have absolutely no time for anything. And the easier you can make it to where they can instantly connect to something that is close to where they live, close to where they work, that almost makes the selling point for you. But if anybody can figure that out, please let me know.
And for us, I think that one of the next things that we're going to be leveraging is some pearls and some I call it not really customized web page designs for data collection, but we've got a grand opening coming up. So we've kind of held off on pearls and QR codes, because for me, I have a big challenge making sure that we can deliver on really the customized content that we need when we're delivering something into your mailbox. We're great at mailing. We do a great job of lists. It's kind of integrating that web piece or that mobile piece. So for us, probably the next step is just going to be getting people onto the web and delivering some more personalized, relevant content around why we're mailing them, collecting data, and then having another touch point or trigger point off of that data that we collect to reach back out to you, and then tying that back into, well, when those people came in, filled it out, giving them the ability to share socially, right? Which we've read a lot of data from some of our vendors about the ability to share and the multiplier with the sharing piece to it. So for us, it's not real complicated. It's not a big mobile QR pearl. It's very simple baby steps that we think are really going to move the needle, and more importantly, empower us to get better in communicating with our customers, because we have a very passionate, avid consumer base, and they're willing to give us information because they love the sport and they love what we sell. So it's how do we get people to give us that information, and how do we leverage it off of that online collection into more meaningful communication on a go-forward basis.
You know, I'm glad you're here today, because one of our employees is a huge golfer. He had to come listen to you sitting over there. He buys everything at Golfsmith.
That's awesome.
You're throwing your hand up. Golfsmith, big buyer.
We appreciate your business.
Here's a question I'd like to ask, because we have a lot of agency people in the room, and this is the plan. I was going to ask you this anyway. What coaching would you give to agency people as they leave here after 2 days? How to work with clients like yourselves? From your experiences and background, having maybe worked or not worked with agencies, what would you coach them as they leave the room here? How to better add value to their clients today? Does anything come to mind?
I can tell you that when the agencies come to the different countries and they give presentations and they say, well, we're going to study what's going on with Subway, that's all fine. We're looking for, and I know this is difficult for agencies because I used to work for agencies, to do some sort of if you really believe in what you're selling and you're talking the talk and walking the walk, you want to be able to give a sort of quantitative result in the money that we're going to spend with you. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for. Not just, and I hate to say this, but I also say to the people, I don't want to see a smoke and mirrors presentation. I want to see the real thing.
Listen first, talk second.
I don't have any great insights for you.
Any more questions? We've got some time. We've had a lot of detailed information that we've shared over the past couple of days, a lot of different exercises in marketing, database management, all those sorts of things, you know, that agencies do as well as what our clients are doing. But for those on the panel and even those here in the audience, what are over everything, just everything's in one basket, what is the one or two things that keep you up at night? It could be something very small, it could be something really large, but if I could just conquer this, I'd be fine. I could get through this. Is there any one or two things that seem to be keep coming up for you?
For us, it's data integration. That's a big piece of it. I mean, making sure that we're tying all the behavior and activity across all our channels into a 360 degree. I'd be happy with 270 view of the customer at this point in time, you know what I mean? And then developing plans to act on that. And again, I think there's the tendency to look at your entire database and go, well, look at all these potential customers or past customers who have moved into the 24-month plus and try to attack it all. I think it's important to bite off manageable chunks and test and learn, and then take the next step. You know what I mean? Rather than trying to go too broad, too fast. But for us, data is a big challenge just because there's so much of it.
Yeah, I can't think of a better answer, but especially from the standpoint that whatever those results are, guides you from everything else that you do from that point forward. What content do you create? What directions do you send people to? How do you interact with them going forward? If you do get a response, and obviously you're just flying in the wind if you don't know that answer coming forward of exactly who it is that you're talking to.
The thing that I'm thinking about is the marrying the IT with the marketing, and that's something I want to work on, and that sort of keeps me up, is to figure out how to get the reports I need from them, how to make them understand why I need to know if a particular lead source for a particular ad or something is working, and making sure they're on the same wavelength.
I would say that we really struggle with keeping our patience and having our clients remain patient, and it takes time for things to develop, and it takes time for things to happen. And if you try to do the tactic of the day, that it's really distracting you from everything else. So I think we really struggle with keeping our clients focused on what we had put in place and letting that work.
Yeah, that's the long-term vision aspects. That's when you're managing a business with shareholders and a publicly traded stock, it's hard to have because it's easy to manage short-term sometimes versus long-term. So.